Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney, and I am here with your top stories, the most read stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Now, there's a big story that's going around right now about a jury award related to Cracker Barrel. Obviously, that's a well-known restaurant, and a man has been awarded $9.4 million for something that happened 8 years ago in Tennessee. Now, we'll tell you what happened, but realize he may not get all of that money because there is a cap on damages in the state of Tennessee, so he might be capped at $750,000. But again, jury has awarded this man $9.4 million. It happened 8 years ago when a man was accidentally delivered commercial grade bleach to his table. He thought it was a glass of water. It wasn't. Here's what we know. We know that he was served a mixture of water and eco-san, which is a commercial grade bleach that is used to clean things. So the man's name, William Cronin. He went to a hospital after that. He was there. The server asked to refill his drink, came back. He took 3 big gulps. Immediately his esophagus started feeling very uncomfortable, went to the hospital, and since then he has had years of gastrointestinal issues. Cramping, reflux pain after meals, definitely a lot of stuff going on here. Well, according to the attorney, here's what Cracker Barrel is accused of doing: using unmarked water pitchers to mix water and eco-san together and then soak parts of the soda machine, the drink machine, in that mixture in order to clean them. Now, if you've ever worked in the restaurant industry, I can speak as someone who has worked in the restaurant industry. That's a common practice to clean the soda machine pieces in a pitcher. Apparently, this pitcher was not marked, and the man ended up being served liquid from that pitcher, which presumably the server thought was just water and was actually the mixture of water and the eco-san. Now, while he was in the hospital, Cracker Barrel's corporate office is said to have faxed a safety data sheet to the hospital for eco-san. So the attorney says that indicated that the restaurant knew immediately after the incident exactly what happened. Now, in an email statement to CBS, Cracker Barrel said it was disappointed with the outcome. It said it strongly disagrees with the jury's award. They called it an isolated incident, an unfortunate and isolated incident that occurred at one of their stores 8 years ago. Now, as I said, that jury award, though it is more than $9 million, could be reduced to $750,000 because of a cap on damages under Tennessee law. Now, bringing it back home here to Northeast Ohio, the Ohio Department of Transportation is clarifying a few things about the snow that we had Sunday night into Monday morning. They want to make it clear which roads they are responsible for plowing and salting and which ones they aren't, because especially in the city of Cleveland, there was a lot of criticism of officials, the new mayor, Justin Bibb, saying why wasn't the city ready for this snow when they knew it was coming. Since then, the city has said that they will use this opportunity to realize what needs to be done in the city for future snow issues moving forward, which it's Northeast Ohio, so we're going to have them. Matter of whether we have them this season or next season, who can really tell, because it is really just so unpredictable here. But the city is saying they will use this as sort of a starting point to understand what the city needs to do moving forward. Well, the Ohio Department of Transportation spokesperson Brent Kovacs says that they only plow interstate highways and state routes and U.S. routes that are not within a city. Specifically, they shared a graph of Cuyahoga County, which of course makes sense with all of the conversation around Cleveland, and they pointed out that they have crews that work to clear I-77, 480, 490, 90, 271, 71, and Route 176 only north of I-480. Also, a few select routes in a couple of villages are also on that list. ODOT wanted to make it very clear. Here's a quote from them. ODOT does not plow every road in the county. There you go, straight from them. So because of the plowing issues, because snow does not continue to keep falling, at least at this point, but because of those plowing issues, there are some schools that are still closed again today, because the reality of the situation is that side streets and sidewalks have to be clear for people to get to school if they need to get to school. So Cleveland Metropolitan School District and Akron Public Schools are among the districts also closed today. If you want to see a list of those closures, we have that on WKYC.com. And the city did update this morning at about 9 a.m. that they had about 90% completion when it comes to plowing the roads in the area. So they said that was about 265 out of 292 subsections. Now, in more big news, this is national news, but it does impact us here locally. Starbucks is changing course on its vaccine mandate. If you remember, last week, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down part of President Joe Biden's administration's hope to require vaccines of businesses that employ 100 or more people. Now, it did uphold the requirement of the vaccine mandate or testing for healthcare workers, but again, struck down that employee requirement. So Starbucks is now saying, because of that, they will no longer require U.S. workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Earlier this month, they had said that they would fall in line with that policy. Of course, that was before that policy was struck down. That was back on January 3rd when Starbucks said all employees would have to be vaccinated by February 9th or have to face a weekly COVID test requirement. At that time, the representative for Starbucks said that they would do whatever they need to do to help keep you safe and create the safest work environment possible. But this week, on Tuesday, they're now saying they do encourage vaccinations and booster shots. Now, at the time, Starbucks did require its employees to let them know who were vaccinated, and Starbucks said, without revealing exactly how many, that the vast majority are fully vaccinated, but they wouldn't say what percentage are not fully vaccinated. And just so you get an idea of how many people we're talking about here around the country, Starbucks employs about 228,000 people here in the U.S. Now, when we're talking about COVID-19, doctors want to make sure people understand the difference between being asymptomatic, having COVID-19 and not knowing it because you don't have any symptoms, or ignoring COVID-19 symptoms. There seems to be this sense, according to doctors, that people who have mild COVID symptoms just aren't testing and they're ignoring it and going about their daily lives. Now, why is this important? Because it can mean the difference between someone purposely putting others or knowingly putting others at risk in the middle of this rise in COVID-19 infections, or this high plateau, at least, of COVID-19 infections that we've seen here in Ohio. Dr. Jane Morgan, who is executive director of the COVID task force for Piedmont Healthcare System, says that she has experienced people denying having COVID in her daily work, and it's a dangerous misinterpretation that if you don't test and get a positive result, that you don't have it. So what doctors are saying is, if you have symptoms that are cold and flu-like, the best course of action is to assume that you have COVID-19 until you can prove that you don't, which will require that testing. Now, keep in mind, this does come at a time where the Biden administration is offering 4 free COVID-19 tests. You can go to covidtests.gov in order to get those tests, so you have those on hand in case you are exposed to someone with COVID or you do feel sick, and then you can do that testing. Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Ohio. Today, the Ohio Department of Health reports 20,483 new COVID-19 cases. I want to take a moment to clarify here. It's quite possible that this does not include many at-home positive COVID-19 tests. It wasn't long ago that I did come down with COVID-19 after being fully vaccinated and having a booster shot. My symptoms were mild, but I did test positive for COVID-19, and so I looked into how to self-report that. And if you want to know how to self-report your COVID-19 case with an at-home test, there's an article on WKYC.com on how to do it. There's an email that you send your information to, but it's very specific. You have to send a lot of information, and if you leave anything out, your case won't be included in the county's totals, in the state of Ohio's totals then from there, in the city of Cleveland's totals, for example, in my case. So, possible that we are drastically undercounting the number of COVID-19 cases that are actually happening here in Ohio. Now, on that note, though, our positivity rate for the cases that we know about is 29.4%. So for all of the COVID cases, all of the COVID tests that are being done, 29.4% of those are coming back positive. Right now, there are a total of 5,889 people in the hospital being treated for COVID-19. That's a decrease, so that's positive. We're seeing a decrease there for the first time in quite a while. And right now, there are 1,176 of those people being treated in the ICU. Now, as we try to figure out how to keep ourselves safe from COVID-19 and stop the spread of this infection, the Biden administration will now be providing free N95 masks from the government for people. The government will begin making 400 million N95 masks. Now remember, when we're talking about the degree of protection you get from these different masks, N95, that's way at the top. That's surgical grade. In the beginning, early days of the pandemic, yes, people were told they did not need an N95 mask. We were told how to make our own mask. I did a video on how to make your own mask from fabric that you have at home. Now they're saying those cloth masks, really not doing the job. You need to do KN95 or N95 masks. The difference there is just the certification. One of them certified here in the US, the other certified in a foreign country. And then also those surgical masks. Those blue, they're pink, they're different colors, but they have that piece that you can pinch it to your nose. It's the cloth, they've got the folds in it. You know what I'm talking about. We have examples of it on WKYC.com as well. So back to the N95 masks. The Biden administration will be providing those, about 400 million of them. They announced that today. The national stockpile, it's the strategic national stockpile. That's where these are coming from. There's more than 750 million of these protective masks on hand. So what they will do is they will have these available for pickup at pharmacies and community health centers across the country. They'll start shipping this week, so people will be able to get them starting late next week. That's according to the White House. Now, this will be the largest distribution of free masks by the federal government to the public since the COVID-19 pandemic began. And when we learn more details about where you can get those, of course, we will have that information for you on our TV shows, on WKYC.com, and our WKYC app. Now, in other medical news, the Cleveland Clinic, which is a wonderful institution that we are very lucky to have right here in our own backyards here in Northeast Ohio, is launching a first-of-its-kind brain study, and it will have about 200,000 participants. This landmark study is to help better understand why millions of people around the world suffer from brain diseases. The goal is to pinpoint disease biomarkers early before clinical symptoms would otherwise present themselves. So you can get a little bit to the prevention versus the reaction of that diagnosis. The clinic said this: 1 in 6 people around the world has a neurological disease. These include Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, having strokes, or epilepsy. Those are just a couple of those examples. So the clinic went on to say, while the medical community has learned to manage some symptoms of brain disorders, it remains challenging to predict who will become sick or how to cure or even stop the progression of these diseases once they are diagnosed. So again, the goal here is to look for biomarkers to determine whether someone might develop one of these diseases and try and get ahead of the situation before you're in that moment where you're treating the symptoms or trying to cure something that we don't yet have a cure for. So this new study was announced. It's called the Cleveland Clinic Brain Study, announced today, and it is said to be the largest clinical study ever for brain disease. It will collect data from 200,000 people. These will be neurologically healthy people over 20 years. Long time. So we are talking long game here. So they will hope to find ways to prevent and cure neurological disorders. Now, let's take a look at the sports world. The Cleveland Cavaliers are they're really having a moment, you guys. Hashtag let them know is a thing. Let them know, because the Cavs are on a roll. And in their latest game against the Brooklyn Nets, there was at least one fan who had something to say to Kyrie Irving. Remember Kyrie Irving? He was here when the Cavs won the NBA championship. Well, he played here. He plays for the Brooklyn Nets now. And when he was here, which in a game the Cavs ultimately won 114-107, there was a fan who was sitting courtside and heckling him. And he looked square at that fan and very calmly said, "I got y'all a championship," and, choice word, still ungrateful. You can see what he said if you go to WKYC.com, but I will not be repeating the particular word that he said right there. And he just seems, he seems a little bit over it. Now, there's been a bit of back and forth between Cavaliers fans and Kyrie Irving. You know what he was talking about, by the way, winning that championship was his game-winning three-point shot against the Golden State Warriors in 2016 when the Cavs won their first NBA title and the city of Cleveland its first major sports championship since 1964. So it's not like he didn't do nothing, right? And that's kind of what he's saying here. But it's been a bit back and forth. He did ask for and get a trade after the 2016-2017 NBA season. So when he first came back as a Boston Celtics player, he got booed. But last January, a year ago, he got a standing ovation from Cavaliers fans because the Cavs honored him with a tribute video. So I guess that just goes to say Cleveland sports fans have very short memories. That's really true. You can look at it across the board. What are you doing for me today? That's what Cleveland sports fans want to know. But if you are looking toward the future and you're excited about things going on this summer, Put-in-Bay has released its 2022 schedule of events. We have the whole thing on WKYC.com. The fun kicks off in May. It goes through October. There's an island-wide garage sale. Did you know that? On Put-in-Bay. That happens on May 14th. Some of the other cool things they have going on June 24th through the 26th is their Pirate Fest. This is Pirate Fest 13, spelled with a Y, not with an I. They're having a soccer cup there, July 9th through the 10th. It's a 6-on-6 soccer cup. They have a New Year's Eve at the Bay Party on September 17th. That's very interesting. They have an Island Wine Festival on October 1st. That sounds like a lot of fun. Of course, they celebrate Halloween there too, October 22nd. So that's kind of when the season starts winding down. So if you want to check out that whole list, it's on WKYC.com. And if you want to know the latest about Put-in-Bay, maybe you're super amped on it, you want to get out there a lot, text the word Put-in-Bay, all one word, no spaces, PUTINBAY, to the number 22828. That's also on WKYC.com, so you can subscribe to the visitor newsletter. And one more thing to let you know before we go here, since it is Wednesday. On Wednesday, we let you know your good news. It's All Good News comes out every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on the WKYC YouTube page. And we've got lots of good news to share with you this week. I'll sort of give you the rundown of just one of the great stories we have in there. You know, this week was the Betty White Challenge. Betty White would have been 100 years old on Monday. So lots of people across social media, because she was such a big animal lover, they were encouraged to donate to animal shelters and rescue groups or adopt a pet. And lots of places were naming animals after Betty White and the characters that she played, like Rose on the Golden Girls. Just a really cool moment. And here in Northeast Ohio, lots of shelters got a lot of participation. Thousands of dollars in donations, lots of items actually donated too. One shelter had over 300 donations come in honor of Betty White. Just absolutely incredible. And one lucky pup got his forever home. His name is Spike. And happily, after spending more than half of his life in a shelter, will be going to his forever home. That'll happen after he has a dental surgery this week. So if you want to check out the details on that, again, that's on WKYC.com. All right, that's it for your 3 News Now update today for Wednesday, January 19th. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. We are, I think we can officially say we're more than halfway through the week right now. Sounds pretty good, right? All right, I will see you back here tomorrow with more 3 News Now.